So, today's episode of Take a Seat explores modern manufacturing, technical expertise, and what it takes to compete on a global scale. And we're delighted to welcome our guest, Michelle Quadrelli, the Managing Director of Scott Fyfe Ltd. Scott Fyfe is an award-winning employee-owned manufacturing business based in Tayport, with more than 160 years of expertise in materials technology and advanced textile solutions, serving global markets. With over 22 years of industry experience, Michelle brings a powerful mix of commercial insight, operational leadership, and strategic thinking to the role. Under Michelle's leadership, the company has strengthened export performance, expanded international collaborations, including a new strategic partnership in the United States, which we're going to talk about, and continued to push the boundaries of high-performance manufacturing through its flagship technology, Alphashield, which is transforming trenchless infrastructure renewal worldwide. And I'm sure she's going to tell us a bit more about what that means in due course. In today's conversation, we'll be talking about the technical side of manufacturing, how flexible working can support both employee wellbeing and international collaboration, and why Scotland's unique manufacturing skills and trades remain such a valuable global asset. So, Michelle, take a seat. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me along.
So, in my introduction, there were some things I didn't understand and some things I'm looking forward to kind of hearing a little bit more about. But that strategic partnership, which is obviously so important in terms of supporting the workforce and maintaining such a brilliant asset that we've got in the local business community. Yeah, tell us a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, the announcement that we've had this year is a real sort of big strategic global move for the business. We've had huge success with our Alphashield product, which is used for pipe relining. It's a product that we've designed and developed in Tayport, and we manufacture it there. And we've got patents on the product, and we've had such a great response globally in terms of interest in the product, and we have a real market pull for the product. So we've seen huge growth in that business area. With growth comes challenges in terms of how we can service our customers effectively and quickly in a market that can be very contract based. And we've worked in partnership with many companies in that market for a few years while we've been in there and growing the business. So the strategic move to start a distribution agreement with Waterline Renewal Technologies is a great move for us in terms of allowing us to service the US market, where we can provide shipments direct from Tayport to the US to one site that can then be distributed to their distribution centres across the US, that can then allow us to and them to supply into our customers across the US. So it's reducing lead times and allowing more of a just-in-time service rather than waiting for shipments directly from Tayport necessarily.
That makes sense. I know that when we've been talking to companies about just entering the US market, how difficult it can be, because each of the states has got their own rules and you know, sometimes the costs that face businesses. So having a partnership like that where you've got a distributor makes a huge amount of sense. Has there been any changes to how you viewed the US or other markets in terms of tariffs and just what has been going on in the last little while?
Yeah, it's certainly been challenging, but I think that's just a sign of the world that we're in. There's lots of volatility and uncertainty, and I think what's really important that as business leaders that we're setting our businesses up, that we can be adaptable and flexible around that. So yeah, there has been some challenges around tariffs, especially last year, but it's how we can position ourselves to be able to ride any of those kind of challenges out, and what we can do with our global partnerships to allow some of these to not be such a big issue moving forward.
Yeah. And in terms of working with overseas clients and just how that means you manage your relationships, and not just that, but you know, I'm glad all of our customers are in the same time zone as us, for example, and they all speak mostly the same language. So yeah, what kind of issues and sort of problem solving do your team have to come up against?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there's different ways that we work, but we're quite used to it. I mean, Scott Fyfe has a long history of exporting in a number of different markets, and actually I find it really great fun and interesting dealing with different cultures. I mean, sometimes we're dealing on different days of the week, so there is some considerations that need to take place when we're in different time zones, in terms of what we offer in terms of internally to support staff if we need people to be a bit flexible around their working hours. There's a great amount of international travel that can happen as well, so making sure that when we are travelling that we're making sure we're getting that time back if we're jet lagged, but equally understanding the cultures we're dealing with, how they like to operate. Everybody's different. And how we can best communicate, so how we communicate internally and how we communicate externally to our customers as well. And I think, you know, at the outset of any kind of partnership or relationship with a customer, it's knowing what works for each other and being clear around that. So preferred methods of communication, understanding those different time zones and how we can work together to get through those. And it actually offers a lot of advantages as well, because, you know, sometimes, you know, if we are dealing with the US, we are well into our day. We can have calls in the afternoon with customers. If we're needing some answers from them on things, it means they're still working while we're at home having our dinner or whatever. And the next morning we're coming into answers on that. So actually it allows you to have these relationships in the working hours in relation to these partnerships that you've got extending more than necessarily 8 or 9 hours a day. So I think it's just being mindful though of when there is emails coming in late at night or first thing in the morning, that we don't overdo that in terms of, you know, the people that are working on site or the people that are traveling globally, that we're making sure that we're looking after each other at the same time as well.
Yeah, no, I think that does make a lot of sense, doesn't it? I know when in the past, and I've been very lucky to have kind of been able to visit some overseas places, but we did spend quite a lot of work and time with Scottish Chambers of Commerce when they were helping chambers think about how we were going to be able to support businesses looking at new markets. And those cultural differences, it's really important, isn't it, to kind of put the energy and effort into understanding your customers and how they prefer to work.
Definitely. I think it's about forming those relationships first. I mean, there's lots of challenges that can come in more on a transactional basis when you're dealing with different currencies, and how we kind of protect our business against currency fluctuations, or we're dealing in metric and imperial. So we've all got to kind of sort of how do we calculate certain things out, and what's the preferred method in terms of how we communicate to customers. Is it feet? Is it meters? Is it dollars? Is it euros? But yeah, there's lots of consideration. But I think first of all, developing that relationship and forming that relationship and partnership, and that spirit of partnership really helps in terms of then developing that relationship, and that can kind of go on further. To how you
it definitely is about people, isn't it?
It's very much about people. And I think that's where, you know, as a business, we're looking at setting up products that provide a solution to challenges that people have got in the marketplace. We're never going to be the lowest cost commodity style producing company. So for us, it's about forming those relationships, really understanding the needs that customers have got now, but in the future, and developing that relationship as a long-term one. And that is really key to us.
Yeah. Have you ever, or any of your team ever been and visited anywhere overseas from a business point of view where you've actually thought, oh, that's given us some great ideas to do something different, or even the opposite? You know, is there a time where you can think you kind of came a cropper from a, you know, a cultural business point of view?
Yeah, I think for us as a business, when we're looking at new opportunities, sitting at a desk and Googling things isn't going to give you those answers. It's about getting out there into markets, whether they're existing or new, and speaking with people. And that is when you can really gain the biggest insight in terms of what opportunities are out there. Are they real opportunities for us, or actually maybe they're not for us? And it's identifying those as well, to know, actually, we thought this was maybe an option. Being out there, speaking with people, understanding that market, even getting out there, understanding how some markets are using their products. When we were getting into the Alphashield product and looking at pipe relining, I was out in Switzerland watching a sewer pipe being relined, and I can say sewers smell the same no matter what country you're in, and it's very glamorous as well. You're quite right there, you know. So, but actually understanding how they're using the product, the challenges they've got about, you know, moving these liners from the side of roads to access points where they can invert through manhole covers and things like that. But understanding that, it also allows you to see, actually, there's another opportunity here. And we're seeing that with the Alphashield range, where we see that expanding further into linked and related markets in the sort of the pipe relining industry. So for us, getting out there, speaking with people, seeing how things work is a huge part of what determines where we move as a business.
Yeah, and without giving away trade secrets or kind of business sensitive information, how do you then innovate? Like, how does your company kind of make that happen? Do you work with partners on that? Is it, universities? How does that kind of work?
Yeah, a huge change in the business that kind of started to happen around 2010 was when we started to introduce design thinking into the business, and using some of the design thinking tools to really trigger kind of ideas. At that time, we'd had some really successful products, and they were kind of coming to the end of the product life cycle. And we probably got quite good at talking ourselves out of new market potential and things that we could be doing. So having some kind of structure and design thinking tools that can help you kind of take those ideas and sort of define them down to areas that are worth going after, but also allowing you to introduce things we can do within the business, like rapid prototyping, that we can get ideas out into the markets and see what ones are most successful, and what ones are failing. Because failing fast and moving on to the next thing is huge, rather than saying, oh, we think we've really got a great idea here, we've got to keep going at this till we get it right, and then you realise 5 years later nobody wants to buy your product. So it's really key that we continue to be innovative in terms of our approach, and that's about our products, but how we do business, how we operate internally, how we operate externally as well, is really key. And trying to kind of get those ideas by going out and seeing people is one thing that we really try to promote internally, and taking that diagonal slice through the business where it's not just certain areas that are looking at this, getting operators together with some engineering and technical side of the business, as well as commercial, to kind of look at sort of ideas that we can work on together and concepts that we've got that might really help develop the next generation of products that we're doing.
And what was it that brought that design-led thinking into the business? Where did that, I take it there was sort of training and stuff that came with that?
Yeah, so initially at the time we had Nick Koonsberg as our chair, and he had been previously chair at Glasgow School of Art, and there'd been a relationship that had started there where they were looking to work with businesses to introduce design thinking into the business, to really promote how they were doing things and how they could instigate change and innovation. So we were one of the 3 companies that were kind of prototype companies for them, where we introduced some of these tools, and we took a team of 12 individuals, a diagonal slice through the organisation, and we took 2 days a month off site to learn some of these tools, and then we came back to site and tried to ripple them out through the business. And that's what instigated it initially, and it was hugely successful. It changed the structure of our business, it changed how we work together, and made us appreciate what each other did more, and it created kind of the space now that we've got within Scott and Fyfe, where we operate out of that innovation space. And we've continued to really promote and develop that further, and done work more laterally with the V&A Dundee in terms of some of the design for innovation programs that they've had in place. And we've also worked with them to support some of the companies they've been working with to really highlight how important introducing design into your business can be. And actually for us, it was survival, because we had products in decline. We needed to get new ideas through the business, and we needed to look at more commercial success from them. And that really gave us that structure and platform to be able to develop that to the success that we're being today.
That's really nice to hear that in practice, how it's kind of how that the support has worked, but it's obviously made a huge difference to your business.
Yeah, it's been really impactful in terms of what it's done. And initially we started out thinking it would really generate some new ideas for products, but actually it started to generate ideas of how we could work on site as well, how we could work with customers and the partnerships that we're developing. And it's just how we do things, how we save energy on site. It's just throughout the whole business now, and it's great, and it's really important as we look to kind of develop ourselves further.
Yeah. So tell me about Tayport and 160 years of expertise, but how important it is to kind of maintain that base, but still, work with a global audience.
Yeah, I think, with a business of that age, and if you come to Scott and Fyfe, you'll see we've got the museum mapped out and with a timeline, and the company's got such a strong history of diversification and adapting to the times, and there's a lot that we can learn from that. You know, if we were still making the same products we made back in 1864, I don't think we would still be here. There's not too many sailboats on the River Tays these days that require woven cotton. And we've seen what's happened in the Dundee area around jute. So being able to take our skill base from being one of Europe's largest jute manufacturers to now creating a diverse range of products is really important. And that's so important for our history as we look to kind of move forward as well. So it's important, and there's that element of pressure there as well of going, well, what's next? And I think going back to kind of the strategic partnerships that we've developed of working closely with companies, we've got a lot of companies that we've worked with for over 20 years that we've maybe started in one product area in one market, but if these are large blue chip and global companies, they have lots of divisions, and that's opened doors for us to move into other areas as well, and allowed us to innovate with them to create new products that are allowing huge advantages in terms of sustainability and really changing how these markets work and operate for the better.
Brilliant. Well, thank you. That's been a really interesting, but quite a whistle-stop tour. There's so many more things that I could think to ask you. I might have to get you back. But I wanted just to do what we do with a number of our guests, which is, before we wrap up, we have a set of questions we call key questions, based around obviously our location here at City Key. So what's one piece of advice you wish you'd known at the start of your career?
It's probably around being yourself, actually. I think kind of when I started out in my career, I was very observant of people that worked around me and feeling I had to be a certain way to progress within a business or to be a leader. And actually, probably the biggest lesson I've learned is actually being yourself goes much further, and it's okay to be yourself. And with being yourself comes that authenticity and being confident enough to change, to say, actually, that's not me, that's maybe what works for somebody else, but for me, being authentic, being myself, and knowing that that's okay has really been a bit of a game changer in terms of how I've been able to form relationships with people I work around, how we've been able to develop ourselves as a business, and how we all work together. So I think, if somebody maybe told me that at the outset, it would have been great and helpful, but at least I've learned it along the way.
Love it. And is there one issue that keeps you up at night?
My children, probably. No, but I suppose from a work perspective, there's lots of stresses and challenges that can come being a business leader, but actually with a lot of those, what you might class as worries, is opportunities. I think for me, something that I'm very mindful of and that I think about a lot is about the long-term decisions that we're making for the business and where we take the business and the impact that would have on our employee owners as an employee-owned organisation. I think that adds something a bit different than other businesses where a lot of time people are focused on the bottom line. And don't get me wrong, that's critical. We fund ourselves. We're in Tayport. We have to do that, and we have to have good results to be able to stay here for another 160 years. But making those decisions that are right for the workforce, the employee owners, who are everybody through the business, and making sure that we keep business strong and stable in Tayport, but that we continue to grow that allows us to feed back to the local community, that allows us to feed back to that workforce, is something that I'm very mindful of when we're making strategic decisions for the business.
Okay. And if Scott and Fyfe had a theme song, what would it be?
I love this question. and you know what? I'm going to take this back to everybody on site and ask them this as well this afternoon when I get back in. What would our theme song be? I don't know, we've been speaking a lot about exporting today, so maybe 500 miles by the Proclaimers might be appropriate, because that sometimes happens in a day. Maybe it's another 500 more as well, depending on where we're going. Another one that comes to mind, maybe I'm Still Standing, after 160 years. Although I don't know, are they quite cool choices? Maybe not. I'm maybe letting the team down in terms of we should be coming up with K-pop Demon Hunters or something like that my daughter would be like, that's a bit more cooler to say, Mum. But no, they're probably the two songs that
Good
really come to
answers.
mind.
Yeah, that is really good. Well, I've really enjoyed having you with us today. Huge thank you to you for taking the time to come in and be part of our Take a Seat podcast. It really makes a huge difference. It's given us some real insights into manufacturing and what that's looked like in terms of moving the business forward, but also just touching on design thinking and employee ownership. There's an awful lot that goes into making a business like Scott and Fyfe endure and kind of survive and thrive for the future. So highly technical, globally connected and driven by people as much as process. So thank you for that.
Okay, thanks for having me.
Hearing how flexible working supports international collaboration, how strategic partnerships open new markets, and how Scotland's specialist trades continue to punch above their weight really brings home the strength of the sector. It's a powerful reminder that innovation doesn't always look like something new. Sometimes it's about evolving long-standing expertise to meet modern challenges. Thanks for listening to Take a Seat. We'll be back soon with another conversation from across our business community. Thanks.